Welcome, welcome to the seventh installment of the Do You Dan podcast. My name is Javaska Thomas, and I produce the show. And to my left is the one and only Dan Goldberg. Thank you. Thank you. Today we have a great show ahead of us. We're going to do two parts: soaring to success, soaring to enlightenment, or soaring to enlightenment first and then soaring to success, in which we will talk about compassion and empathy for people around you and your peers and how that relates to business. So,
right.
How's it going?
It's going pretty well. How you doing?
I'm good. You know,
Right.
it's the sort of end of like the academic semester, so a lot of things are happening at once. Like as we speak, I have about like 3 papers to do, presentations, projects. It's all happening, but you know, we'll get it done. You know,
And Javaska knows that Monday my capstone course does their presentation,
oh my,
and that goes how long?
so long. The whole entire class, everyone is presenting their projects,
And then some.
and then some, and then questions.
Right. It's the ultimate class in the semester, and this week for professors is extremely, how should I say, heavy. You know, we have to. Our classes all run long because it's presentation time, and pretty soon, within the next couple of weeks, final grades are due. So we have papers coming in and so forth, and projects. So that leads me to the question about how you deal with others, students, friends, people in your life, and how you empathize with them. Because I know right now, because all my students, one of the things they must do is put me in their group me groups or their text groups, so I know what they're doing. So I constantly am getting texts from my students about their projects or group me notifications about that. And I know what they're going through, and I know what it's like, and I know how they feel that their grade depends on that. And I try to reassure them in a lot of ways that I do empathize with them, but at the same time I can vote them off the island, so don't take advantage of me. So therefore, it's a combination of empathy, compassion, and strength. And you need all three, whether that's in business, which we'll discuss later, or in life. Because a lot of people are very kind. And I know we've touched on this in other podcasts, but I'm going to go into a little bit more depth about it. And it is very important to have those qualities. But at the same time, you can't be a doormat. You can't let people walk all over you, which does happen. So therefore, you have to be strong enough to withstand people taking advantage of you, but kind enough to help people along the way and be their guide and be their mentor and so forth, and have the ability to say no. You've reached a certain limit, and then there's no.
That's huge.
Huge.
That's huge. Like for me personally, I struggled with saying no. For me, it's always in my head. I would always think like each opportunity that would come across for me to help someone or to just engage, I would just take it and say yes. And I would end up filling my plate so much that things would end up having to fall off.
Right.
And it's really bad. So like having that balance between the strength and the compassion and that empathy for someone else to even respect yourself and say no, you know.
Right. I understand what you're going through. I know it's important, but I have to look at my schedule. I have to look at my situation in life. I have to look at the people around me and how it affects others. And I have to pass. I would love to help you, but I have to pass. And not unlike you, Javi, there are a lot of people like that. I mean, for the longest time, I was like that. And I would say yes to just about everything and everybody until I learned that it was having a deleterious effect on me. So I had to say, I have to watch out for me.
Where do you think that comes from? Like, where do you think the need to say yes to everyone comes from?
Well, it comes from a number of different perspectives. One is it comes from insecurity, which is if I say no to this person, they're not going to like me.
Exactly.
Okay. That's one way. One reason. The other reason is I'm so giving and so caring. I want to help people. So it comes from that side of saying, I love you. I love my friends. I want to help you. And I know that you need help. So therefore, I'm going to do it. So that's not really insecurity. In a very strange way, it may be selfish because it's kind of like people who do good things so that they'll be saved. They'll be saved and they'll live, an eternal life. Well, I mean, if you're doing it for those reasons, then it's selfish. I mean, just do it to do it. So, and then the other option is you're just doing it to be a good person, and to fulfill a greater good. So I think there's different elements each time, but eventually you have to say, no, you'll have to do this on your own. You'll have to do it. And I know it's tough. It was tough for me with my children to say no, because you want to enable them. You want to help them. And so it can go over a certain limit, and then you really are enabling them.
Yeah. So
you're not allowing them to do certain things. And I was guilty of that because you always want to help them. You always want to make life better for them.
Exactly.
And eventually they say, hey, Dad, I can do this. Let me do this myself. Let me do whatever. Okay. You don't need to help me. Okay. And I learned that. I did learn that. But I am generally such a giving person that all I wanted to do was give. And they're my children, and you want to do whatever you can do for them.
Maybe we can delve into that. What do you say, or what goes through your mind when you determine that it's crossing that line from healthy giving, healthy assistance to actually enabling someone to do bad behaviors? What is that threshold? What is that limit?
The limit is that you look at this person and you begin to recognize the fact that they're not growing, and you're not allowing them to grow. You're not allowing them to grow because you're doing everything for them. It's almost like micromanaging. If you micromanage your business, and we'll get into that, and you, for a number of reasons. One is you're empathetic to the person who's trying to get the job done, and the other one is because you don't have any faith in anybody.
Exactly.
Okay.
So and it goes back to that insecurity in your business.
Correct.
Too.
So then why do you hire people? If you can do everything, or you're standing over their shoulder, why do you hire people? You may as well do everything yourself.
Yep.
And then you figure out that, hey, I'm doing everything myself. I have no time to grow my business. So then you're working in your business, not on your business. And then you are messing up your whole business. But we'll get deeper into that later. But I really think that enablers enable out of love. And then they recognize the fact that love also does not enable. It allows a person to grow. If you say, I can't enable you to do that, you're never going to learn. It's what we were discussing about people who don't drive and they're in their 20s, okay? And someone drives them all over.
Everywhere.
Okay? Their parents are driving them everywhere. And eventually you realize that, hey, this isn't working. This person, unless they have a physical ailment or whatever, a visual ailment, this person has to start driving on their own. Okay, so it's because I'm not going to be here forever. If they never learn how to drive, I'm not going to be here forever. And it's true. I mean, none of us live forever. So we have to, no matter what it is, business or life, you have to train people because your job will be over eventually. Your job will be non-existent because you will not exist. So there are people whose parents are so enabling that when they die,
they leave them with no skills.
They leave them with no skills. And when they leave them with no skills, it's a pathetic situation. And those kinds of things happen to people all the time.
Yep.
All the time. It's like the people who get divorced. And the husband or the wife does everything. And then they decide to walk out, and the spouse is left with no skills. And then how do they make a living? And that's why there are courts and alimony and stuff like that. See, so you help and you may enable, but you got to step back and say, I'm over that point. Okay, I'm stepping over because my son or my daughter is not gaining that skill to move forward. So an enlightened person, as difficult as it is, looks at things and goes, how do I move this person to another level?
Something that I'm hearing when you're speaking is sort of like the power balance between the relationships you're talking about. So like a lot of the time when you're giving, it's on an unequal balance of power. But my question to you is, let's say you have an equal base of power, like maybe a spouse or a coworker. How do you sort of help them grow, or how do you keep things at a similar level? So let's say if you guys aren't together anymore, that person is still self-sufficient, or like how do you navigate equal power relationships in empathy and compassion?
Communication.
Facts.
That's really what it is.
Yes.
It's communication. It's being there for each other, even when you're not together. Some people have a very hard time with separation. Okay, divorce or ending a business, abandonment, all that stuff. Yeah, and because of that, there's an unequal thing. And if you love someone, if you love them enough to marry them, love them enough to go into business with them, love them enough to be your friend, okay, you should love them enough when you're not married to them anymore, or not a partner with them anymore, or not that close with them anymore, to want to help them in life. They're a little bit in my life. You know, I've been married a few times, and I'm still good friends with both of my ex-wives, and anybody I think that I've ever had a relationship with, whether it was a friendship relationship or a sexual boyfriend-girlfriend relationship or whatever that is. I think that you keep the power balanced by saying, how can I help you? And if I need something, can I call on you? Okay? Because you can always call on me, but I want to make clear that I may need you sometime. Or I may just want to be able to say hi to you without any
strings attached.
Yeah, or any bizarre thoughts or behaviors on your part. I want to be friends. And I think that as a society, as human beings in this society, we get there's this acerbic thing when relationships break up, that people can't communicate.
And I don't understand that.
I
never
understand it
understood
either.
that.
I really don't. It's I get it that there's these emotional things at the beginning, but that fades.
Exactly.
And then 3-4 months or even a year, you become friends again. You are not in those business relationships or sexual relationships or things like that. But I think love should be greater than those things.
Exactly.
Okay. And you should be mature enough and enlightened enough to say, hey, I'm only here on this earth. If you live to be 100, you've lived a long time. But 100 is nothing. It's not,
In the
100
grand
years
scheme
is
of things.
nothing. So in the grand scheme of things. So it's like we're only here for a limited amount of time. Why spread hate or dislike or any of those things?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just be friends. We can't live together anymore in a business setting, in a personal setting, or whatever, in a friendship setting. But I still love you. I'll always love you. I'm not going to not love you. And one of the things, as I was sort of alluding to earlier when I said in this society, part of that is we don't hug anymore. You got to ask permission to hug, because then it becomes a sexual harassment thing.
Oh, dear.
So it's like we've lost that. We've become so politically correct that we don't do what they do in Europe, which is an abbraccio, okay, where men hug each other and they kiss each other on the cheek, and they do that with women, and women do it with other women and men and stuff like that. And there's that whole thing that's so wonderful about that we've lost. And in our zeal and zest to be politically correct, we've lost. We're all guarded in that, and
Physically guarded,
mentally
guarded,
yeah,
emotionally guarded.
And I get it, but I don't. And it's kind of like I was away for 3 days this week, and I saw some very dear friends of mine, and as we were leaving and so forth, they would want to give me a hug, or I would want to give them a hug, and we had to substantiate it. It's like, is it okay if I give you a hug?
Yeah, I'm coming in.
Right. Is it okay if I give you a hug? And if they said, well, I'm uncomfortable with that, then you don't do it.
Yeah.
But nobody, we're all friends, so everybody does that. But it's so sad that it's almost like you've lost a part of your soul, because that's a transference of positive energy. A hug, I wrote a poster about this, is like a blanket of love. And we don't hug our kids enough. We don't tell people we love them. And that's so important. See, we don't hug our friends enough. We don't hug even our acquaintances.
Mm-hmm.
There's a transfer of energy that happens when people literally hug each other from a good standpoint. I mean, if you're a creepy person, you don't want to hug anybody.
I was thinking of that. I was
maybe if you're creepy, but then if they touch you in a weird place,
all of those things. It has to come from a good place.
Yeah, it has to come from a
the intent
good
has to be there.
Right.
The intent has to be love.
Right. Now, I come from a family of boxers. Right.
Mm-hmm.
One was a champion boxer, featherweight and junior lightweight. Champion of the world.
No big deal. I wish I had an air horn thing.
Yeah. And it's kind of like if somebody hugged me in a creepy way, well, I was taught how to box. Mm-hmm. So, I put them against the ropes. Just kidding. I'm trying to be politically correct. Peace and love. But if you're enlightened, you know how important those things are and how to show people those things. It's not difficult, and we've made life difficult. It's so simple. Life is simple, and we have a tendency to do self-sabotaging things and complicating things, and there's no need for it. Why should we complicate life? Life is easy.
It is. I think ideally that would all be true, but I feel unfortunately because of the environment that we're all subjected to and the things that are always the things that are always thrown at us, we have no choice but to be calloused as people.
We do.
And to be guarded and to be just shut off emotionally and mentally, because there's that lack of trust with others and with strangers and with everything that's happening in the world. People are just they're just hit with so many things at once that they can't they have no other choice but to always be on guard.
Well, and that's true, unfortunately. As I said at the beginning, it's our society.
Yeah.
We've created it, and we continue to create it. And it's kind of sad to me, but it's reality. It's kind of like there's what we wish life would be like, and then there's the reality of life. And you have to know who to avoid and know who to bring into your world. Know that there's this thing of being loving, kind, compassionate, but then you can't be naive.
Mm-hmm. And that's where the strength comes in.
That's where the strength comes in. You can say, hey, listen, I've tried to be compassionate, caring, and loving to this person, but they're just bad people. And no matter what I do, they're going to try to take advantage of me in one way or another. So I'll just avoid them. And that's it. That's reality.
Mm-hmm.
That's unfortunately in our society, enlightened reality to the situation we've created. So enlightenment is not just all woo-woo stuff. Okay.
Enlightenment is realism to me.
Enlightenment is realism. And just go, I'm all good with all these people, but there's Mr. Bad Energy coming our way. And no matter what I've known him for this amount of years, and he's always been bad energy. So you have to recognize that.
Yeah, and I believe observing the energies around you and really taking the time to audit that and sort of protect those energies is the most important thing.
Well, I write about this. I believe it's in my last book, Soaring to Enlightenment. I went through a period of my life, and I still can do it, where I could see people's auras and their energy coming from them.
Mm-hmm.
Gold auras, blue auras.
I talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
Like
you can see it.
I can feel it.
Yeah.
You can feel it. Like you can feel someone who's upset, or you can feel someone's bad energy, or you can feel someone has an ulterior motive, and their face isn't showing it, their words aren't showing it, but it's in the air.
It is. And you have to be aware of those things. And some people just aren't. But the fact is that you can cultivate that. You can really learn how to read people. But you have to be open enough to know that. And it takes work. It does take work. But and sometimes it just happens to you. Sometimes, bingo, all of a sudden you go, oh, you have an epiphany, and you can see all this stuff. And it's very clear that you can pick up someone's energy, that you can pick up the negative and the positive. You can see the energy coming from them, literally see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go, oh, this is weird. Okay, this person's cool and this person's not. And let me move on or move into their world and have them move into your world. So enlightenment also deals with strength, the strength to know who you are, the strength to impart what you know to others, and the strength to impart what you know to yourself and say, this is cool or this is not cool.
Not cool.
Right. And I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to hang with this person. But you show love even to that person. You show compassion and caring, but that doesn't mean you have to bring them completely into your world.
Exactly. Because that world is important.
That world's important because remember this. All we have is now, and all we have is ourselves, okay? Ultimately, the only person you spend your entire life with is you, okay? So that's who you spend your entire life with, yourself. So just be cognizant of how you treat yourself.
Exactly.
And how you treat others, okay? Because the energy goes both ways.
Okay. Well, speaking of energies, compassion, empathy, how does that relate to the business world? When we're soaring to success, how can we use those themes and those ideas to become successful business people?
I think people pick up on customers, clients, patients, whatever you want to call them. Pick up on your compassion.
Sales.
Especially in sales.
That's a
especially
huge
in
thing.
sales. That you know how to relate to people.
Yep.
That you form rapport and you bond with people, that you listen to people, that you don't just sell to people. You sell, well, you allow them to buy.
Exactly.
Okay? You allow them to buy so that when you're selling, okay, or what's the line? When you're telling, you're not selling, right? So therefore, people who are salespeople, if they constantly are telling people, oh, my product or my service is great and all the benefits, when you haven't spent time listening to them to find out what they really need and what their distress is in their business or whatever, a good salesperson is like a doctor. Okay, you go to the doctor and you're not sure, you're just not feeling right or whatever, and the doctor cures your pain. A good salesperson does the same, and sometimes a really good salesperson can extract from the individual the reality for them that they are sick, that they are in pain.
I'm smiling because I remember this from the class,
right.
from the summer.
I teach this class,
yeah.
right? And so a great salesperson makes the patient sick and then tells them how to get better and then makes them better. Okay. So that's the best salesperson. Okay. Now, if you're hip to that, if you know what they're doing, then you can buffer that. But because I have taught in the corporate world both sales techniques and buying techniques. So for major companies, and it works. But people can see if you really care about them.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, if you remember, it's like you go in and you start selling away, and I don't care what the business is.
Blah, 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 blah. Like not even just immediately out the gun. Just look what I have. This is this is that. Like, relax.
Correct. And it's show some empathy. So tell me about you. Tell me about your business. Tell me about what you could change, what you'd like to change. If there was one thing that you would do differently, what would that be? Just explain those things to me. I'm not here to sell you. I mean, if you really want what I have, you'll want to buy it. So
exactly.
Let me hear. I mean, I have 1 million products, and I can try to sell you 1 million products. Or if I listen to you,
you'll tell me what you want.
Yeah, you're going to tell me exactly right. You're going to tell me what you want, and it may just be 2 of my 1 million products. Well, why should you look at the other 998,998, whatever? I'm way over the top, but why should I show you the 1 million minus 2, okay? Or all million? So I have to listen, and listening is compassion.
Exactly.
And listening is kindness. And listening is love. And in business, you don't want to micromanage, because why would you hire people? You don't want to enable people. You want to enable people to grow.
Exactly.
Let's put it that
exactly.
way. You want to be able, you look at people and you say, and this is my mantra, your job is to make your job obsolete, right? So that you can train the next person to take your job, so you can move up and work at another level.
Work on your business
rather than in your business. And you remember all this stuff. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's good. Hey, man.
What can I say?
That's why you got the grade you got. So, and when you do that, and when you're kind and you say, this is what you need to do, I'm here to help you. I'm here to guide you. I'm here to mentor you. But I'm not here to do your job, because that's what we pay you for. Okay, so I'll help you in any way I can. But once you get good at what you do, then you can train somebody else so you can move up. And that's why the person who knows everything in an office or in any kind of company and doesn't relate that information to other people gets passed over in promotion.
Exactly.
Because it's like you're the only one that knows it.
You didn't affect anyone else.
Correct.
Your impact is just you.
Correct. So therefore, everything. You're too important in that position to move to another position because you didn't pass on the information. So then you have to be kind and caring with that person. You say, listen, whoever it is, Bob, Sally.
I was thinking Bob too.
Bob or Sally. You got to teach Joan, okay? You got to teach Joan what you do just in case, you're not here one day or something happens to you or a promotion comes and you say, I want that job. And we'll say, okay, Joan can take what you're doing. That doesn't mean that Joan's taking your job.
Exactly.
It means that you've trained Joan just in case. So the kindness that you show to people, if people don't feel threatened, that, oh my God, if I tell Joan, then I'm going to, right?
Yep, and that's where that insecurity lies.
Correct.
With people.
If they feel loved and they understand the process, then it's not, it is caring. It is kindness. It is love. By the same token, you have to be strong in your business to say, no, you're not moving up because you didn't do this, and this, and you're not as productive as you can be. But if I help you with that, and I show you in the review what you need to do, then maybe next year, okay? So you just don't do things for people for the sake of just doing, especially in the business world, unless they're productive. Whether that productive means a profit center, or everybody should be a profit center in one way or another, or a smooth element that they embody to grow the business and therefore grow themselves. It's a fine line.
Yeah,
it really is.
I think. Well, me personally, I think obviously one of the most, or arguably the most important thing in a business is the people.
Always.
Human resources, the people that you manage, and the people that you hire. So I think one of the more important things is to not enable someone's bad behavior, or necessarily if someone doesn't have that compassion or doesn't have that intrinsic nature to help others below them grow, I don't believe that they have it in them to succeed at a higher level, because that's what's necessary at the higher level.
Yeah, but unfortunately, if the boss, the owner, is that type of person,
very true.
They like that. So what you really need is open communication and feedback, so that the employees can say, "Hey, listen, Wally here is a jerk, and he's negatively affecting your business, and therefore negatively affecting us. Our productivity is down because of him, okay? Because he's either a micromanager or he's a dastardly human being and only yells at us and doesn't thank us for things, doesn't appreciate us." And I teach about that too in my critical thinking skills course, but and my ethics and my entrepreneurship stuff. It's
a common thing.
And it is a common thing, and I don't think enough businesses get that, and that's why businesses, sometimes implode. It's all about communication, and the most important resource a company has is its people.
Exactly. And nurturing those people. Creating the environment and the culture to have them succeed and be prosperous.
And want them to go to work.
Exactly.
Want them to go to work because they enjoy it. They love the people they work with. They love the philosophy of the company. And if the company is all about screwing people, if you ever seen the movie Glenn Ross, right?
That's a great movie.
It's a great movie, and I show that in one of my sales courses. The whole company is based on screwing people. And if you work for a company like that, you're going to become like that. Well,
you have
everybody
no choice.
knows, watch The Smartest Guys in the Room, Enron.
Yep, I saw that too.
And that's just it was a whole weird situation, but they created it. And I actually met with Enron when I was chairing my oil company.
Wow.
And I walked out. I may have said this in another podcast, and I turned to my partner and I said, I'm not an idiot, but I can't figure out what they do. It's everything. They couldn't even figure out what they did. So how could they figure out how to treat their own people, because they couldn't even figure out their main mission?
Yeah. But people are blinded by the stock numbers. People are blinded by the potential for them.
People are blinded by the money.
Exactly.
And the interesting thing is that most people don't leave their jobs because of money. They leave their jobs because of working conditions. So there are people that make $200,000 and have no life.
Miserable.
And then they downsize by 50% or 70 or, whatever, 30%. And they're much happier. They're much happier because, as the saying goes, things are the thieves of time. So therefore, the more money you make, the tendency is to spend more money, to buy more things. Then you need to make more money to buy more things. It's a never-ending cycle. And it takes you away from the things that are most important, which is love and kindness and being with people you enjoy and laughing and all those other things. So we have this whole, that's a tangential thought, but we have this whole society that's based on greed and taking advantage of people and making as much money as possible. And you sort of have to remove yourself from that. You can be a good person and make a nice life for yourself without destroying other people's lives or taking advantage of people. You really can. And if you're, and back to the original thought, if you're like that in business, people will come to you. They'll get that energy. They'll say, I really like hanging out at that store. I really like buying stuff from them because they're good people.
Yep.
And that's what you should strive to do. Strive for that. And your life will be probably, there's no certainty, but your life will be mellower.
Yes. I believe something that always grounds me when I start to think that way, when I start to think very monetarily, my decisions are based off of money. I just think, when I die, what will I take with me?
There's nothing that you take with you. Obviously, as trite as that is, there's nothing you take with you. And therefore, all these things that we collect and gather, and it's like I look around my house and I go, who's going to want this crap? Okay? Who's going to want this, really? How much stuff can I give to my children? Okay? They don't want it. They got their own stuff. Okay?
Everyone's got stuff.
So it's like a George Carlin routine. He did that whole routine.
Right.
You look at things and say, do I really need that? Nah, I don't really need that. And sometimes you're so emotionally attached to it, you can't get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going to happen. Your children, when you die, they're going to go, why did Dad keep this? I don't get that.
All of that.
Yeah, and then they'll find one box, just as I did with my mom's stuff and my aunt's stuff. I can't throw that out. I can't. It's mom's stuff. I can't. But then again, I could hear my mother's voice in my head going, get rid of it.
Well,
I don't even know why I kept it to begin with. Okay? So, and that's, by the way, a very loving thing to do. Mm-hmm. Remove those trappings that are holding you back or creating a mess in your life. So,
and you do know what you leave back. Leave behind.
You do know what you leave behind. The most important thing to leave behind, to be repetitive, is that people will say, he was a good, kind, caring, loving person, or
legacy.
Is your legacy. And all I want people to say is he was a mensch, which is a Yiddish term, meaning he was a good, kind, loving person who cared about people. That's all. That's, and it doesn't matter whether they bury me or burn me up or I donate my body to science. When they think of me, that's all I want. And if you have a business like that where people go, oh, the people that own that business are just wonderful people. You should go to them. You should work for them. That's a beautiful thing.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Exactly. So there it is.
There it is.
There we go.
Well, in conclusion, be a mensch.
Be a mensch.
As usual. Just be a mensch.
Be a mensch.
And that concludes our 7th episode of the Do You Dan podcast. Everything that we mention in this episode will be in the description below. You can find all the links to Dan's social and my social down below. And leave any questions that you have. If there's anything that we spoke about or anything that we said that sort of sparked anything in your mind, leave it down below because we will be answering your questions. So
yeah, it's great. So have a great rest of your day whenever you're listening to this, and
thank you.
Enjoy life and be kind and loving.
Thank you so
and
much for
caring.
listening.
Yep. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon. We'll see you soon. See ya. Whew. That's good.